But if you're retraining someone, you're trying to put them to talk a proof speech, in essence. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a retraining.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it approved speech. I understand what you're saying.
Chapter 3, Jordan Peterson and his battle with the Ontario College of Psychologists. Let's see what this is all about.
I'm having a discussion today with my daughter, Michaela. I asked her to interview me, I suppose, about what's happening in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the moment on the professional front relationship to me. The Ontario College of Psychologists, which is the board that regulates the practice of psychology in Ontario and hypothetically protects the public interest, has levied a series of what are, in essence, lawsuits against me for unprofessional conduct pertaining primarily to my social media communication. And so they have decided in their wisdom that I am to be required to undertake a series of re-education lessons designed to ensure that I communicate in a manner they deem appropriate. And I have told them that there are no circumstances I can imagine under which I would be willing to do that. And the next step is to bring me before a public disciplinary hearing and then to suspend my clinical license. And so I'm making all of this public because I think people need to weigh in on whether I'm an alt-right, Nazi, harmful, bastion of intolerable political thought with a troll-like army of pathological followers, or whether the college itself is a corrupt nest of social justice vipers hell-bent on envy and revenge and using the tiny fraction of people who are complaining to put forward their own brand of personal pathology and vindictiveness. And, well, I'll make everything public except for that which I can't do on legal grounds and let everybody decide for themselves. That's the plan, because I might be wrong, and I guess if I am, I need to learn how. In any case, Michaela is going to talk.
Like Dan Pena says, I might be wrong, but I am never in doubt. I don't know if he says it. I don't know if it's his quote though.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if you think about it, what he just said. It's a lot of words, but if you boil it down, basically they are requiring to follow a retraining, so to speak, for how he communicates on social media, Twitter. They don't approve of the way he's communicating.
Yeah, but this has been going on for a while now. I mean, Jordan Peterson has been in a battle with the university for a while because his popularity came when he stood against it was a Canadian legislation based on which they wanted to, or maybe it's already in effect, but based on that law, you are obliged to call someone by the
Pronouns.
that they tell you. So you can, if they tell you, for example, if I say, for example, my pronouns are Lord and King, you would need to call me Lord and King. But I think Lord and King aren't on the list, but there are other pronouns that are on the list, and you would need to you would be obliged to call them by that name. And his whole point of view is, his whole argument was that I have freedom of speech and you cannot tell me what I can say and what I can't say, because no matter what I call that person, I will. So the fact that that person calls, uh, I don't know how, I'm very clumsy in this area, but the fact that that person wants you to call it worm, because that's one of the pronouns, you and I don't want to. So speaking, so this was Jordan Peterson's argument. That doesn't mean that I will treat that person in an inhumane manner. I would still respect his opinion. I would still treat him cordially, but you cannot enforce me. You cannot force me to use the pronouns that you, um, yeah, created. So we can see that years later, he's still battling that fight, only in different
Forms.
different forms. But it's a freedom of speech versus. So on the one hand, you have freedom of speech, and on the other hand, you have,
Approved speech.
what did you say?
Approved speech.
No, yeah, well, if you look at it, it's oftentimes you have freedom of speech. And in this case, they're claiming that his freedom of speech is causing harm. So, and you're not allowed to you're not allowed to cause harm to another person. But bodily harm is easier to identify than unbodily harm. But it's the same discussion, basically.
But if you're retraining someone, you're trying to put them to talk approved speech, in essence. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a retraining.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it approved speech. I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't call it approved speech, but it is speaking the way you think that he should speak. The question is, who is you? You know, who is the person or the people that are saying that he's not speaking correctly? Are they in the majority or are they in the minority? And I
Parents,
think
they
it's
are
safe to say that in the school systems, especially in the universities, it's more. The universities are, I believe, or at least in the United States and Canada, according to Jordan Peterson as well, more liberal than conservative. And and they are pushing the narrative in the schools. So if that is the case, then yeah, he might. I mean, maybe if you take maybe in percentage of the community, there are not a lot, but nonetheless, for his case, for his situation in his field, they are a lot.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so he basically described what his situation is, and this was he tweeted about this before he made this podcast, which is kind of interesting, guys. If you want to know more, well, because we're only going to touch a small part of this interview, um, I would really recommend this interview to give you a better idea of where Canada is. What are what is the case, or what are the cases, because there are 13 cases that are put he's fighting against right now. What are the cases he's fighting? He's describing basically on a basic level what a couple of them are. And if you if you would listen, you would think, where is this going?